There you go. G'day.
What up?
We're a bit late.
Oh, well, here we are. We made it.
I'm already having a beer because it's like 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I haven't got any. We should make a thing that we do each time, maybe.
Yeah, if we do it at this time.
Yeah, I can do, usually around now.
Yeah, it's like a little bit easier if we do it at the same time. But anyway, we got here at the end.
Window, it's fine.
There he is.
Yeah, no, that's my bad. Yeah, late change up in the routine, so apologies.
I learned something today.
Okay, here we go.
Jared, were you the one that put me onto Cloudways as a host?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the best.
Well, it's very easy to spin up and manage stuff.
Yeah, so the coolest thing about it when I first started using them was like you can scale. So basically it's just a UI. So they're not actually hosting your stuff. It's just a UI that you're accessing, and then you can kind of choose who the backend host is. So you can spin up a website and be like, okay, I'm going to use AWS to host this, or I'm going to use Google or DigitalOcean, and it'll give you the prices and whatnot. And then the coolest thing is you can just, if you're expecting a lot of traffic, you can scale it up, pay a bit more money, and then scale it down, which is what we used to do at Black Ops when we used to do a beer release. If
you got to clone the servers when you used to have to do that.
Yeah, exactly. However,
I know where you're headed.
Right. So Cloudways, DigitalOcean own Cloudways, right? So they bought them for like $400 million or something stupid. And
isn't that insane that they just created this epic user experience of these underlying infrastructure?
And support. Their support is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So I've got my own Cloudways server. When I was with Black Ops, I had the Black Ops one. Black Ops 1 was hosted on AWS, I think, from memory. My one is hosted on DigitalOcean, which is the company that owns Cloudways. And my recollection of DigitalOcean was it was just kind of like a real no-frills, kind of like developer-friendly host, right? I think you might have put me onto them as well, like way back in the day.
Possibly.
But apparently with so when you set up a new server, you choose the host, and basically like DigitalOcean is by far the cheapest. And it actually tells you, you can scale up and down, no problems. And like it sort of puts that as like, this is the benefit of kind of using this thing. But apparently with DigitalOcean, you can't scale it down. You can only scale it up, which I just found out. So I got my hosting bill and I'm like, why is this so high? And I remember I jacked up the RAM for some reason a month or two ago and forgotten about it. And tried to scale it down and it wouldn't let me. And basically, you have to clone the entire server.
Yeah.
You have to copy, well, when you clone the server, all the applications and websites come across with it. But that means you got a new IP on a new server. So you have to update all of the DNS on all of the domains. And I've got about 20 domains to the new server. Then you have to go and reinstall an SSL certificate on every single domain, even just the forwarding domains. So I've had to do that on 20 different ones, including the Yarn Solo one and my other podcast, Boss and the Brewer, and all that. I'd have to do that all this afternoon, like literally just now. And then you have to go into your old server and delete the entire fucking thing, which is kind of nerve-wracking, which I literally just did when I hit the Zoom link.
So I've been through that because I have like a couple of, web apps running on Cloudways and the same issues. You bump it up, but then like your traffic isn't consistent. So you want to be able to have it being billed for what you don't want to be overpaid, do you?
But that's the whole benefit. Like I thought that was the whole benefit of the Cloudways thing is you can kind
easily bumped up. You can move it down, but you have to clone it until. And I don't this maybe you haven't done it, but have you moved to the new Cloudways user experience, like the new UI?
On one of my clients, I've seen it. On my one, I haven't.
Because inside of there, they now have auto scale apps, but it only works if you're running WordPress. So they automatically scale up and down.
Oh, really?
Correct.
What, based
yes,
on what?
Well, based on whatever the parameters are that you set. But
But how does it know
auto,
when to scale up? Like with traffic?
Cloudways auto scale. Stop worrying about traffic spikes. Scales up and down based on demand. So that would actually solve your issue.
That is seriously cool.
So you can do that if you access the new Cloudways thing. I haven't moved my site over to it yet.
Do you have to, it's just a UI change, isn't it? You don't have to actually move the site.
Yeah, but you got to create an auto scale server. So you got to copy your apps to the auto scale server.
Okay.
So it's the same thing that you'd be doing now to scale back down, but you'd be going to auto scale. Yeah.
Yeah, but you do it once.
You do it once and then you're done.
That's pretty cool. That's a damn cool feature. That's going to save people a lot of time.
Bit more expensive than base, but yeah, you don't have to think about it. If it was more than WordPress, I'd be super stoked for that. I'd be doing it for sure.
Yeah,
yeah. Other things,
but the scaling up and down thing, it's only if you host with DigitalOcean. So if you host on Google Cloud or AWS or whatever the other ones are, you can just scale it down, press save, no problem. So anyway, that's what I learned today.
There you go.
Yeah.
What did you learn, Dave?
I learned a hell of a lot about art on Bitcoin. It was the 300 dimensions mint today for On-Chain Monkey. So
nice.
It's been a chaotic day. Started very, very early. The mint window opened at like 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. I think, Eastern time, Australian time, and was for 4 hours. So everyone was frantically just making sure that it all worked. And OCM and MetaGood had created a brand new mint experience for minting NFTs on Bitcoin, which they unveiled today, which was very cool. So a lot of new tech was unveiled by the MetaGood team, and yeah, it's been a hell of a day. So we the whitelist for that I think was 300 people. Cost was 0.08 Bitcoin, so it was about equivalent to 1 ETH I think to get a spot on that 300 list. And I think as of last sale, the floor is sitting at around 1 Bitcoin. So
did you get to? So you minted?
Yeah.
Holy shit, man! That's a win. That's huge.
That's a win. So yeah, it's been a big day.
So what was involved with you doing that? How did you do that?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a bit of a deep dive on what JPEGs mean on Bitcoin, but over the last couple of months, well, probably since sort of like January, February, they've been developing a protocol which is called the ordinals protocol, which has allowed people to essentially do non-fungible tokens on Bitcoin, which is something that wasn't previously sort of possible. And basically what the protocol allows is for people to inscribe arbitrary data onto a single Satoshi, like one micro piece of a Bitcoin. And so there's been this big kind of experimental build phase that a lot of these Bitcoin kind of developers have done over the, since February, to build out the tooling for people to kind of create a similar NFT kind of marketplace that exists on Ethereum within the Bitcoin ecosystem. And today was like another step closer to that. And the difference about everything being on Bitcoin is that it's entirely on chain. So that's another bit of a discussion that's probably for those who are listening that aren't too aware of NFTs. A lot of the artwork that exists on the NFTs is actually just a pointer from the token to a URL, which hosts the file.
Easily ruggable.
easily ruggable. So if you don't pay your server fees and they shut down your server and you lose your images, then that token pointer goes nowhere.
So for the entire
collection.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. So, and that's happened. You know, all people can just change the image. They just upload a new image over the top of the old one in the same place. And, you know, all of a sudden, that's that NFT that you thought you had, this artwork is a different piece of artwork.
Oh my God. And some of these things are like one you sent through, Jared, was like $6 million or something.
Well, see, they're all done properly. They're on chain. So that's that's just the differentiator. But whereas Bitcoin, that's the only way to do it, isn't it, Dave?
That's it. Yeah. The only way to do it is actually to inscribe the art on the data, you know, using the data itself, and then playing that back off of the Satoshi or off of the Bitcoin. So,
what Danny Yang, the CEO of MetaGood, and the team have done is basically made it possible now to create 3D, high resolution 3D art on Bitcoin, streaming straight from Bitcoin itself. And yeah, they kind of debuted that tech today, and it's pretty phenomenal what they've been able to achieve. So it's going to unlock a whole world of opportunity for people who want to, you know, take on-chain art seriously and digital art seriously. And yeah, it's kind of exciting what's coming next. You know, they're already working with Bugatti as a global brand to kick off one of their NFT drops, which when they saw the tech that they were developing, moved their entire NFT collection that they were going to drop on Ethereum. Bugatti basically called up MetaGood and said, we're not going to do it on Ethereum anymore. We want to do it on Bitcoin, and we want to do it using your tech. So Bugatti have got this big egg collection that's all based around their, you know, they've done it in partnership with Asprey Studios. It's very, very high-end art. And yeah, they're putting it all on Bitcoin using some of this tech that Danny and the MetaGood team have sort of built over the last sort of few months.
So why would they do that? Like, what's the benefit to them?
Well, the first thing is permanence. So when you're talking about digital art, you know, a lot of it's impermanent. It just lives on a server somewhere. If that server goes down, then the images go down with it, or it lives on a website.
But you can do on-chain stuff in Ethereum, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yep, you can do on-chain stuff.
What's the benefit of Bitcoin over Ethereum for them?
I mean, it's the most stable, most decentralized, largest largest crypto network there is.
Yeah,
cryptocurrency network. So it's the, you know, how would you even describe that, Jared? The difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's you know,
no, I understand the
market
difference
cap,
between the two.
yeah.
I wondered if there was benefits for them other than the fact that it's Bitcoin.
I mean, there's some good experimentation going on, and I think there's a lot of people that have done the stuff in the Ethereum space already. Some new people doing stuff in Bitcoin probably gets a bit more attraction. There's some marketing angle to it too. The tooling isn't as good as Ethereum, like that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's a net positive for the space that there's other ways and means to make this stuff happen.
How's
it affected Bitcoin price?
Well, we're in Rec City at the moment, so
yeah, I think it's I mean, the ordinal space is so small. It's very much a handful of people experimenting in a very small way that has no impact on the, you know, the multi-billion-dollar kind of market.
I saw a really good explanation about all of this today. It was a really good analogy, and you know, we're sort of talking right now from the lens of, you know, imagine if we were all interested in light bulbs, and every single one of us was conversing about our favorite type of filament. But, you know, what we really should be talking about is the light and what you can do with the light and how it fills the room and all that sort of crazy stuff. So right now, the people involved in that space, me, Dave, etc., we're just geeks talking about filaments. But the people that are actually going to benefit from these type of technologies is all the front end stuff, and that's you know, yet to be seen. Still very early, for sure.
Oh, but I just wondered if, like, obviously it's a small thing, but in terms of it affecting the price, like using Bitcoin for something like this, I would have thought would kind of shut up some of the detractors, because like Bitcoin is not really used for much of this ecosystem, or hasn't been. It's kind of just something people buy to hang on to. And
yeah, like it's been really interesting. When it first launched, basically there's a lot of Bitcoin maxis that saw it as a, you know, what are you doing to our pure chain that is developed for this one thing and one thing only? And they absolutely hated the idea of inscribing arbitrary random data onto the Bitcoin network. And there was all this fear about clogging the network and taking up block space and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's really funny because some of that still sort of goes on, but I think people have sort of started to come around to the fact that being able to utilize, you know, block space on the most secure network is, you know, for outside things and just storing value is incredibly valuable. So that, the fact that you can have one Satoshi, which is one whatever god millionth of one Bitcoin, and inscribe data on that basically then means that single Satoshi is worth now X amount, right? It unlocks untold value throughout that ecosystem.
Well, you see things like BlackRock come out today. They're the biggest asset managers on the planet, trillions of dollars of assets under management, talking about the tokenization of everything, stocks, bonds, all of it. And it's because of this type of stuff that you're talking about that you can actually effectively do that. So while it seems like, a picture of a monkey on a Satoshi, there's more to it than that. It's the potential tokenization of stocks, assets, bonds, real estate, all of it in like a completely immutable data, which is the part that gets me excited. Still, we're still talking about filaments though, for the most part.
So you got one Satoshi with the image on it, right? Satoshi has a value, which is like whatever percentage of the Bitcoin price. At the moment, every Satoshi is worth the same amount as the next Satoshi, right? So if this particular Satoshi has a monkey inscribed on it and someone places value on that monkey, can you to sell that monkey, you sell that Satoshi to the other person? And you can't move that monkey off the Satoshi. So it's kind of like they're forever, and it brings more value to that Satoshi than it would otherwise have.
Yeah, and this is the cool part, right? So over the last sort of few months, there's this sort of group of people that have sprung up, and they've been around for a while, but in the back shadows. But now that you can actually do this thing with ordinals, it's come to the forefront, which are called sat hunters. So what they do is they go through and find the sats which have been like mined in 2009 or used for the pizza purchase, or like these very, very specific Satoshis, which are all, they've all got their data there to prove when they were mined and all of that sort of stuff. So like dates are important, what they were used for is important. And now they're starting to put meta around that. So you have like block 78 Satoshis, which is like the third ever, I think, block to get mined, and the third ever block to be used for an actual Bitcoin transaction, which is what these particular ordinals that Danny inscribed today are inscribed on. So they're inscribed on a block 78 from 2009. It's like fine wine in a way, right? Like you get these like kind of crazy valuations just because this particular Satoshi was mined in a particular block and used for a particular thing, that then kind of like throws all the valuations out the window again. So
how did he get access to that block?
So he works pretty closely with mining companies. So Danny's background in Bitcoin goes back to like 2009, 2010, and some people think even further than what he's letting on. So basically, two of the investor companies in his portfolio are the two of the largest blockchain mining companies in North America. And so they, work pretty closely with them to do very specific things in terms of that space, and have access to a ton of stuff that normal people will never have access to. So
yeah,
F2 pool or something, is it?
One of them is called Hut 8. And I think the other one escapes me from memory, but I know one of them is called Hut 8, which is pretty cool. So
would previously, before the ordinals thing, would no one have, like, did no one care what Satoshi was what?
People definitely did, but it was just a complete underground thing. It was like, if you were in the club, you knew about it. If you didn't, no one knew about it, right? So these sat hunters, all of a sudden they're in high demand because people wanted to inscribe their art on very particular sats.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
which is pretty cool. So yeah, it's interesting. It started a whole NFT kind of ecosystem on Bitcoin now, which is pretty cool.
But
we're still really just talking about backends, aren't we?
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, like you talk about the culture and things happening on projects, that's front end, that's experience, that's community. That's the cool stuff. But yeah, we're so early that we're still here discussing the hows and the technicalities and I just don't think anyone will ever see that stuff. It'll be abstracted away. You won't even realize.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and this is really interesting because it almost loops right back to our first discussion point, which was websites. And today I came across framer.com, which is essentially like a one-click website builder using AI. And my God, you know, I sent it to my brother and I said, check this out, because he's a web developer. And I said, you know, like Card was good. I don't know if anyone used Card to do sort of websites. But then this takes it to another level. So you can do all sorts of crazy
it does
things.
iPhone apps as well.
Does, mate.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, you know, you talk about abstraction of technology and
100%.
it's gonna, yeah, ramp up very quickly.
Well, the equivalent, us talking about like, you know, blockchains and this and that, is kind of like going back to 1990s and saying, oh, you'll need to know PHP to send an email. Like, and people did have to know that, but you don't now. You just experience through these, you know, these things.
Yeah, it was really interesting. One of the during the Twitter Spaces, one of the guys who was on the list for the 300 came on to chat on the Twitter Space, and they sort of introduced him as you know, a tech OG. And I'm going to find his name because I don't want to get this wrong. I'm going to see if I can find it. His name is Ian Rogers. And he's currently, I think, the experience manager or the, you know, the experience designer at Ledger. But the interesting part about him was his background. And I don't know if you two remember Winamp at all, the music player. So he was part of that team that built Winamp back in the day. And he was also telling us a story about how they built the first ever movie website for Showgirls, which was like back in the day, and just running us through like what was involved with that. And this is all when they were in their early 20s, experimenting was sort of like in the 90s. And it was just amazing to hear what they had to build when they, you know, like all of the tech, they had to know everything. It was like carrying boxes and cables, and just to keep websites up, they had, you know, it was nuts. And it's sort of for him, he was describing what we're going through now with the blockchain space and with ordinals and with Bitcoin is a very similar feeling as what they were doing back in the 90s with websites. And he just draws so many parallels to that. And he's like, yeah, like it's happening and it's here, and this train is well and truly out the station. So, you know, he's now working with a whole bunch of, you know, top tier companies and top tier builders who built big stuff back in the 90s about reusing it for, you know, utilizing now the blockchain to reinvent a lot of what they did. So it's definitely, while you don't hear about it in the mainstream media, you can bet that there's a ton of people working on some really cool stuff across the board in blockchain. It's good.
That's crazy. Winamp was awesome. You just have to like wait like 4 hours, 5 hours to download one song, and then you just listen to that like 1,000 times.
Well, I got cool skins for your Winamp too.
I got into customizing them. So so I started that was probably like one of the first things I would tinker with in terms of digital art was customizing Winamp skins. So
bring them back. Bring it back.
Yeah. Like that, it was so much fun. You used to have like, they were just bitmaps, right? So you would have to open them up in like MS Paint, and it would just be a bitmap, and then you would have like colors which you would use to like create like all the different channels and bits and pieces. And man, it was a lot of just like clicking pixels, but when you came out with something cool, it was super fun. So
I was involved in the more nefarious parts of that world, the hacking Ripper groups that would take media from websites and put them up as like, you know, leaks in the hip hop realm. But you know, a lot of my skill sets were forged in that fire of downloading illegal music.
Well, I mean, like that was like, it was awesome. You had LimeWire, you had Napster, you had BitTorrent, you had all sorts of stuff where you could do. I remember the first time you could do like multi-streaming, like actually get like a ton of different links and download like all the parts of the files from multiple different sources. I thought it was like, that was genius. I was like, this is awesome.
So many parallels there to all of what we're talking about though. Like that was such a geek central place back then, wasn't it? Like even just downloading a song illegally and putting it on Winamp, and like now you don't even need to think about any of it, just what you want to listen to.
Yeah, it took a long time. It took a company, I guess a company, Apple kind of figured it out, didn't they? Basically just by selling individual songs. And then eventually Spotify kind of figured it out by streaming. But for so long, like I was still buying CDs because I had a guilty conscience about stealing people's music, and you literally just couldn't get it in a convenient way. So you just buy CDs. And then at one point we were buying CDs, and my mate had like a mini disc player or some shit, and we'd like rip the CD onto the mini disc, and then you get like an MP3 file. But yeah, it took, how many years did it take? Like a decade before you could actually like properly buy. It took like basically bringing out the iPod pretty much until you could actually properly legally buy like digital music.
And then it got even easier with the streaming afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like there was still an art to launching or to releasing music, I should say, back, you know, I mean there still is today, but the CD, the physical, was so much a part of the marketing of whatever band or whatever music, right? But it was because they had the budgets to do it, you got some awesome stuff. Like you got great cover art, you got great like digipacks and this.
Got all the lyrics and shit.
Oh, like
sometimes,
you know, like the albums were good, but then like some of those, like, you know, I remember opening the Fear Factory Obsolete digipack for the first time, and it was just mind blowing. I spent hours and hours and hours poring over everything like that. It was crazy, and that's a part of the music experience that I think I missed the most. Is
dude, it was way better. Like that's gone now. It was way better.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity for the right artist to come along to help people rediscover that, because I think it will find its way, you know, back in some way, because you still you can't replicate that experience really. As much as they've tried to do it with like kind of cool launch stuff online and these digital launch parties and streaming the album live and all of that sort of stuff, sitting with a physical object and just like having the time to like turn it over and get into it, and yeah, you can't really replicate that in any way. So
I grew up with that, cool. But at the same time, I disagree that everyone is in the same sentiment of missing it. Because if I was to ask people who'd never had that, it could come as a novelty to them, but I don't think they miss that experience.
Yeah, my kids wouldn't even know. My kids wouldn't even know what that is. They
wouldn't get it. Now it might be a novelty, and like you said, I think someone could like sell something quite nicely, and like, but it would be a small part of the audience that would even resonate with that.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't really change it. Like if I had to choose to go back to how it was or now, I'd stay with now, because I like the fact that I can just get whatever music anytime I want on my phone. And the convenience.
But then saying that, like I've got my albums on the wall there. And there's a whole thing about that was awesome. Like the physicality of putting a record on the player.
Well, records have kind of almost become that, haven't they? Like people who are really into music in that sense and nostalgic about it, they get into records and they buy a record player, and they actually still go out and buy physical records.
For sure. But like my kids look at that, and the way that they think of music is they just go into their Google Home and say, hey, Google, play a song. Like that's, they'll never understand that physical experience. It just seems foreign.
It used to be like a real event. Like I remember I think it was probably the last album I ever bought was The Strokes' Is This It? Like their first album. And me and my mate went to the motor show in Brisbane, and I was like early 20s, I think. And it was like an event to go to JB Hi-Fi, pay $20 to buy this album. I'd heard it was awesome, and it was fucking awesome. And I took it with me to the motor show. And then after that, we went to the Paddo Tavern, and we were so excited about listening to this CD that we went up to the bar staff and went, can you guys put this on at the bar? Because we want to listen to it. So we sat there at the bar and they played the whole album. We just sat there drinking beers, listening to the whole album. Ended up going back to mine and listening to it again. And it's still probably my favorite album of all time. And that's just, that experience is I didn't know at the time, but that was the last time that ever happened, and that will never happen again. That just doesn't happen anymore.
But see, here's where I kind of disagree, right? Like, because I just don't think that like that's part of the music discovery like meta at the moment, right? But this is what I mean about like because of that experience and that coupling of a physical experience with the music, it's ingrained in your memory as something that's probably greater than it was for other people, right?
Yeah.
And this is what I mean about like an artist coming along and enabling that for their fans, and then all of a sudden like there's a new meta, and it might be like album listening parties at someone's house, like comes back for whatever reason, these kids all of a sudden just start like, oh, there's an album coming out and we can't listen to it until like they drop it on this thing, but we're all going to get together. Like, I don't know.
Maybe it's a VR AR type thing.
It might be, but I think like where we're at now, where like there's a competition in the sort of the race to the bottom for like releasing music, where it's just like drop a song, right? It's going to reach a certain level where that's almost like doesn't work anymore. And then you have the pendulum will swing back, and it'll become much more, they'll have to tie more experience into that process to have a point of difference to give their audience like something to talk about.
Well, my kids have done that with Fortnite, with the launches of Fortnite, when they have like the new map releases or whatever it is, and they have like Travis Scott or like Marshmello or someone
amazing
set in the game, and they will all, like, my kids stayed up till like 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning to all be there with their friends live in the game as this is happening, as he's performing those songs. So it's like that's almost like a new version that they're experiencing now that we couldn't experience then.
Yeah, I mean, like, just and then say, hey, there's that experience. Now go and tell them, here's your CD, open up the case and read the book. Doesn't work. It's not gonna translate. I have seen some pretty cool stuff done. Like Eminem has started releasing cassette decks because it's important to him, but like they sell out. Like there's still people, you know, collecting and getting different types of experiences. I think it's really cool.
Well, I mean, it's, you know, it's vintage fashion, right? Like you see all the kids these days that dress like we dressed in the 90s, and you're like, that's embarrassing, but I'm not going to tell you that.
Dude, we should talk about fashion because we've obviously got the same stylist.
Oh shit, I just realized that then. Yep. That's probably something, you know, the old flannel.
The red and black flannel,
yeah. But I don't know. It's really interesting just to watch these kind of waves of how people can consume things, and the way it works. So it'll be interesting to see what's next. It's not going to be the same. But
NFTs segue into that like quite nicely as potential ways that experiences can happen around music and with music and fan ownership of music. I think there's some cool stuff that could happen there.
And events too, like the stuff you worked on, Dave. Like the concerts seem to be bigger than ever. Like fucking Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran, and these people are selling out gigantic stadiums, more so like they're breaking all-time records.
Yeah, it's really interesting because at the top end of town, it is bigger than ever. And I think that's down to the social sharing aspect of what's going on. So like the kids see everyone else at a concert and then they want to go to the concert, right? So they all get out their phones and it's just a network effect. At the bottom end of the town, it's totally different. You go to a gig these days and there might be lucky to be 10, 15, 20 people at a show on a weekend at your bar, right? So this kind of, it's less about the music and itself rather than the social status and the experience and being able to say I was there with everybody else. I mean, you only have to look at the way that Splendor's gone in the last over and how much that's changed in the last 15 years, 10 years to see
it's like it turned into Coachella.
Mate, you could like, I mean, it was kind of, you go and everyone's watching that but through a phone. They're standing there like this, right? They're watching the thing that's happening in front of them on the stage, which is incredible. They're watching it through their device. And you're like, what is going on? And then you realize they're not there because they're there to get that so they can share it to tell people they were there to get all the likes, because it makes them feel a part of the crowd online, not because they were at the concert itself.
It always looks and sounds so shit too. Like I get in that habit too, where I'm like, oh, I'll put this on my social media because it sounds good. And you watch it back later and you're like, it just sounds like shit. Like I shouldn't have even put it on there.
Because they're not filming it to watch it later.
Yeah.
That's not the purpose of why they're capturing that moment. They're capturing it to prove to other people in their social circles that they were there and you weren't.
Right. No, I get what you're saying, but I'm just saying, like, it's not really that good for the audience to see it online anyway, because it doesn't do it justice, really.
No, it sucks. But it's not that's got nothing to do with what's happening on the stage.
Yeah. I might have done that at the Harry Styles concert.
But it's not something that happens, like, it's only something that I've really thought about, A, because I'm involved in music, obviously. And B, because like for a while, like I would do it myself. And then I really forced myself to think through what was going on psychologically, why I felt the need to capture this for whatever reason. And like, so I've spent a lot of time kind of unpacking that whole thing, because it was important to me to understand why I started doing that when I actually didn't, ever do that before. Never felt the need to. And so now whenever I go to a show, the phone is off, it's in the pocket, and I make sure that I'm 100% present. And it just, I don't know, I really kind of, I don't know, probably back to our last convo, Dan.
I know, you're going to go on another rant again.
I'm not going to go on another rant again. But yeah, just that kind of being in the moment is becoming more important to me. Probably because I'm becoming an old man. I feel life just going zoop when I
this is like not
screen.
really relevant at all to what we're talking about, but you mentioned Eminem, Jared. My kids are massively into Eminem, not through any, and I was as well. Like I was into all the same hip hop you're into. Well, at least the ones I can see on your wall anyway. And through no influence of mine, they're really into him as well. And he seems to me to be more relevant than ever. Like some of his songs
TikTok
came out when we were younger are still in this, like the Spotify charts is not like it's not like the Billboard chart. It's just what people are playing. And like he's got songs like Mockingbird that are like in the charts, in the current Spotify charts, because kids are like listening to that and getting into that now. I don't even know how, but like
TikTok. There was a TikTok trend of using Mockingbird with like family montage kind of shots.
Oh my God, really?
And that was it. And yeah, you're right. Like,
wow.
Without a doubt, still to this day, for whatever reason, still, being followed.
Yeah. And then, interesting. Yeah. That's funny. That's a TikTok thing.
TikTok.
Dude, some of his lyrics are so bad. Like it comes on in the car. I'm like, this is so awful. Like, I don't know if I want kids listening to this shit, but that's what we heard at the time too.
Oh, we sure did.
It's so bad.
I remember like playing Korn in the car at like full volume when I was like 12 or 13 and like thinking it was the best thing ever. Like mum must have been having an absolute heart attack, but with three boys in the car just screaming their heads off, I don't think she was outnumbered, definitely, and outgunned. But I look back at that now, I'm like, oh, probably can't play that one to the kids. But man, at the time, you don't really realize it, just what's quite going on. I think it's just I don't know. I've really, that's an interesting one. Hindsight's great, isn't it?
Well, I just figured the lyrics in songs don't really matter too much. It's just kind of, I feel like they just chuck them in because they sound good most of the time. I mean, you know more about music than I do, but from interviews and things I've listened to, it seems to me that like in most songs, people get into what the song sounds and feels like and don't pay like a whole lot of attention to what they're about. Like some of my favorite songs, I have no idea what they're about.
Yeah, there's definitely a group of people, popular music where that would make sense. I would think the harmony and whatever.
Yeah.
On the Wall is my testament to the actual lyrics and the stuff that I like to, that's the music to me. That's part of the instrument, but that's rare. That's not how everyone listens.
You know what's been coming up on my TikTok lately? I don't know if you've seen these, Jared, is like some early clips of Kanye playing College Dropout to Pharrell and other people as well, like literally playing like the first raw version of some of these songs. It's the fucking coolest.
Yeah, that's a good documentary too.
Yeah, that's a cracking docu.
What's the documentary?
Jesus, genius.
Oh,
on Netflix.
Genius.
That Netflix one. Is that what that's from?
Go watch it. Yep.
Oh, dude, I have to watch that.
3-part or something.
Mm.
It's really good, really good. Because like, there's actually a whole story, and he had someone following him for years before he even blew up, just because.
Huh.
And that they got all the footage of the whole thing. The before and after, and yeah, it's really good.
That's cool. That album's up there for the best of all time. Actually, all three of those up the top there. All the three Kanye ones at the top there. I reckon.
So we dropped the rankings in Norway, was it?
Yeah, we were 15th in entrepreneurship in Norway. I mean, we've only got like 50 listeners, but that's enough to make the rankings in Norway. But when I log in, it tells me. Oh no, actually, it sends me a weekly report. And we went down to like 50. So yeah, if we got any Norwegian listeners, please share this with your friends.
Let's see if we can top it.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Well, we did have a topic for today, but I feel like we've probably talked enough. We've been going for a while. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, it probably leans into, we've spoken on some of the changes that have happened and things that we look back on and laugh at. And I reckon the next time we talk, there's probably an opportunity to talk about some of our own disasters.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do it next week. That sounds good.
Oh, I do have one thing.
Okay.
I had a chat to the guy who bought your monkey today, Dan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What do you mean a chat? Like a Twitter chat?
Yeah, he was on the Twitter Spaces, the on-chain monkey
really?
Twitter Spaces today. And he's rocking it as his PFP on Twitter. And
I saw it. I follow him on Twitter now.
He's an American guy, but he actually lives in Sydney. And he's going to be up in Brisbane next week for a wedding.
What?
And so we're going to try and catch up, and I'm going to try and give him one of the cans.
Oh, that's so cool.
So we might try and catch up at Black Ops in Brisbane. And
oh, that's so cool.
and have a little meetup.
So did he know about it before he bought the NFT? Did you ask him that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was
Provenance, the story, like that's actually really cool. It's more to it than just a picture, which is the narrative that gets flopped around, doesn't it, with NFTs and crypto? But like, there's good stories around there.
Yeah, and this, I think the funny thing is that it's going to take a long time for these stories to develop and grow their own kind of lore, and because it's so cash grabby and scammy. That at the moment, there's a handful of projects that are going to survive, and like they're the ones that are going to be able to tell the stories in 3 or 4 years' time. That'll set this kind of foundations, I think, for the next really kind of drive to what can happen. A side note, in the US today, Nike completed their drop for the Air Force Ones for their dot swoosh. So it's happening, and it's pretty cool. So,
well, they're legacy brands that understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Building experiences, using new tech in novel ways. And there's genuinely good stuff that's happening. And it's still a little bit too early for the majority of people, but yeah, I think there's value here.
Well, I hope my monkey doesn't get too famous because I'll fucking regret selling it.
Well, I bought Axe Daddy this week on the NFT space. I bought an NFT called Axe Daddy.
Axe Daddy.
Yeah, it was like almost 2 ETH. It was a Matt Fury, who's the creator of Pepe the Frog.
I gotcha.
Dude, so many words. I have no idea what any of those mean.
Well, you would have seen the Pepe the Frog meme. Everyone's seen that meme before. It's like it got taken over by people, for the wrong sort of reasons. But it's like
this frog. Oh, this sad frog.
The sad frog thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So he created that, and this is my Axe Daddy. It's in the chat. He's I even bought axedaddy.eth as the address.
What do you mean you bought it?
You know how you've got like dannorris.eth or
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I went and registered axdaddy.eth
What?
to go with the domain.
What?
Why
Why?
not? Just I thought it was a very good meme and funny, and he's now my third of that collection. So yeah, I've got 3 of them, and one of them is like my Twitter profile.
The other one?
But yeah, I mean,
Gotcha.
you see axdaddy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's a whole reason behind why I bought that. It's not like the whole open on-chain monkey thing. Like it's just art. It's literally just a dude who's doing art. And that's a different reason to buy these things. I think it'll appreciate because of who the artist is, and that's the only reason I've got it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was cool stuff happening.
All right. Good chat, guys. Have a good weekend.
All right. You too.
I'll see you guys next week.